Okay, this is going to be Analytical Astrology episode 3, and I want to talk in this portion about reading a chart or reading a number of charts. And so this happens to be the chart of Margaret Thatcher, former Prime Minister of Britain. And a lot of people would take a whole chart and then they would look at each house, or they would look at aspects, and they would try and do the whole person at the same time. And I mentioned in the last episode that instead of trying to cover the whole individual, you probably will make an awful lot more progress if you were to take one house. Okay, first what you do is you need charts of, let's say, half a dozen people that you know, or 10 or even 15, 20 people that you know, and you choose one house. And I want to look at the 9th. Partly because the 9th is foreign travel, and everybody knows where they've been and what happened and how they got along and if they enjoyed it or not and why they went and who they went with. And these are all facts that will show in the natal chart, and I want to show you how that can be done and look at a couple of examples. And so the 9th house is up here. It rules foreign travel, but it also rules philosophy and higher education. But the thing about choosing foreign travel is that if you go to another country, you know where you went, you've got the date, you know what actually happened. Whereas if you try to take the 9th as philosophy in the beginning, it's much more difficult to pin people down or to come up with concrete, real-life examples of the person's philosophy in action. Whereas with the 9th as travel, you know where you've been. And so I think, okay, let's say you've got charts of 10 people and you talk to them, you ask them where they went and how it was and did they enjoy it and so on, and you make a note of the answers. Then you look at the chart. And so for me, I have Sagittarius in a 9th house cusp, and we know that Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, and I have Jupiter here at 0 degrees of Aquarius, and it's in the 11th house. And we know what the 11th house represents, what it rules, and it rules friends. So what are you going to say to me? If I say to you, why do I travel? Why have I travelled? And you say, with the ruler of the 9th in the 11th, you travelled to see friends. And the thing is, that's true. My parents used to take us on holiday to Italy each year, and I met people who would go on holiday at the same time. But afterwards, when I was in my 17, 18, 19, 20, I used to go to Belgium, especially to Holland and to France, at different times of the year, to go and visit the friends that I had made, that I'd first met in Italy. And so where the people I knew in Glasgow at the time, they would travel to the other side of the city to see their friends, I would leave the country. So if you said yes, you travel to see your friends, that's a fact and that's true, and that's something we can build on to get more information, more understanding of travel, for instance, and the kind of friends that I would have. The 11th also represents hopes and aspirations, and I've mentioned on more than one occasion to my daughter, Glasgow is really nice, but the problem is it's full of Glaswegians. It's full of people from Glasgow, and they're the problem, I think. Like, Glasgow itself as a city is okay, but you add in the people, and that's why you want to leave the city, and actually in my case, that's why you want to leave the country. So another reason, so the role of the 9th and the 11th, I just like to travel. I always wanted to travel. And I always wanted to go and explore other countries and get to know different cultures. Most of the people that I knew in Glasgow were quite happy to stay around, to live in Glasgow, not really maybe move from one side of the city to the other. I wanted to leave the country. And why? Because I had hopes and aspirations that I wanted to fulfill, and they weren't going to be fulfilled by staying in Glasgow and that, in the area or in the surrounding suburbs of Glasgow. So something else about the rule of the 9th in the 11th. One thing, my father, wanted to mention him, he was born in 1915, and he had 3 degrees of Aries in the 9th, okay? And he had Mars at 23 degrees of Gemini. So he too wanted to leave the country, or he too visited friends in foreign countries. So he was born in 1915. And when he was 17, okay, Aries is the pioneer, so you're adventurous, you want to do things that haven't been done before. And so with 3 degrees of Aries here, and Aries the sign of the pioneer on the cusp of the 9th, when he was 17, he worked in a hotel. He was the hotel was part of had connections with other countries, and so when he was 17, and this, remember, is in like 1932, and in 1932 it wasn't that normal or common for people to leave the country and go and work abroad. More so now. But when he was 17, he went to Italy, and he worked in a hotel in Italy for a year. Then he went back to Scotland, and then a couple of years later, in 1933, he went to Germany and worked in a hotel in Germany for a number of months. He then had to, things were not going well in Germany in 1933, and he ended up having to leave the country quickly, and only because he was sort of getting into trouble with the authorities because he befriended the band leader of who worked in the hotel where he worked, and the band leader was Jewish, and you know what happened. So he had to he had to get out of the country as quickly as he could. So with him traveling to see friends, to fulfill his hopes and aspirations, 23 Gemini, and I'm big into decanates, is, if you remember, first decanate Gemini is Gemini, second is Libra, third is Aquarius, ruled by, among other things, Uranus, which happens to be here in the 6th house, which is the house of work. So here we have a connection between foreign travel, hopes and aspirations, and work. The other thing is Scorpio. Mars also rules Scorpio, and it's in the 4th house cusp. And so the 4th shows the condition at the end of life. And it also shows the home. And he did actually, my father did live for a period in Germany and Italy. Then when he was older, he moved to Vancouver. And he actually died. The 4th is the condition at the end of life. And he died in Vancouver. So we've got a connection between the 9th, foreign countries, and the 4th, the condition at the end of life, ruled by the same planet, Mars. And so you understand that the chart is set up, so he's likely to end his days a great distance from the place where he was born. Okay, I need to pause this for a moment. Okay, that was a little bit of a pause for a reason, and now I have to notice the time, and it's 7.5 minutes already. So let me mention one other little point about me, and then I think I'm going to do a second short video illustrating the same kind of logic or same kind of method. So in 1973, I moved to Switzerland because I wanted to leave Scotland, and I looked in a newspaper and found this job teaching history in Switzerland. So I went there for a year, and after that I went to live in Holland and various other places. But the thing is, why did I leave the country to work? And so one way of looking at it is that Jupiter is at 0 degrees of Aquarius, which is ruled by, well, the personal ruler is Saturn, and my Saturn happens to be over here in Virgo, and Virgo is a sign of the teacher, if you remember. So I got a teaching job, but also I have a Capricorn midheaven. So if you see the connection here, we've got foreign travel because of, or in order to teach, Saturn and Virgo ruling the 10th, which is my occupation, my business. So you wouldn't be surprised. So if you were to look at the natal chart, you would see the 9th, you would got Jupiter in the 11th, ruled by Saturn in the 6th in Virgo. And so going to Switzerland to get a teaching, to teach for a time, makes sense given the planets and the signs. And this is the kind of thing you'll find. Talk to your friends and find out where they went and why they went, and then relate what they said to the planets and signs involved with their 9th house and aspects. And you'll find that the chart describes what actually happened to the people in their actual lives. 9.5 minutes, so I'm going to stop this, and then there'll be part 2 following